Articles from the Hindu, July 7, 2020. Subscribe Education Hub and hit the bell icon for current affairs. First, PLA pulls back from Galwan clash site. Disengagement begins after Doval, Wang Yi phone call, tense, structures dismantled at points on LAC. 3 weeks after the worst military clashes in decades, India and China have begun the process of disengagement at contentious locations along the disputed line of actual control, LAC, a government source said on Monday. The disengagement process, a work in progress, commenced after Special Representatives, SRS, Ajit Doval and Wang Yi, tasked to hammer out a solution to the boundary dispute, spoke over telephone on Sunday evening. The Hindu had reported on Sunday that the SRS would hold talks to resolve boundary tensions between the two countries. In the first signs of de-escalation, Chinese troops moved back some distance and dismantled tents at some locations along the LAC. In the Galwan Valley, Chinese troops have shifted 2 kilometers from the site of the June 15 violent clashes, while some tents had been removed by the PLA in the Finger 4 area of Pangong, so government officials said on Monday. The PLA was seen removing tents and structures at Patrolling Point, pp. 14. Some rearward movement of vehicles is seen at the general area of Galwan, Hot Springs, and Gagra, the government source said. Without giving the specific distances moved, the source said the pullback at each location would be confirmed after verification. Separate statements from the Indian and Chinese governments after Mr. Doval and Mr. Wang's talks suggested that both were keen to put an end to the serious troop build-up along their contentious boundary. Both statements stressed the need for a complete disengagement along the LAC. At Pangong, some tents have been removed from the Finger 4 area and the PLA has moved back some distance, said a second government source without elaborating, adding that details of the pullback had to be verified on the ground. Pangong issue. Pangong is one of the most contentious areas of the current standoffs, with the PLA moving about 8 kilometers inside up to Finger 4. India's claim is till Finger 8. As per the alignment of the LAC, Chinese troops have shifted 2 kilometers from the face-off site in Galwan. Temporary structures being removed by both sides, a senior government official told The Hindu, adding that a physical verification had also been conducted. The PLA had moved well within India's perception of the LAC in the Galwan Valley after the June 15 incident, when 20 soldiers were killed. India had matched China's presence with bunkers and temporary structures, and the two armies were in eyeball-to-eyeball positions. Corps commander talks as part of an understanding reached during the June 30 Corps commander level talks. On Sunday, a survey was done to verify if China had acted on its assurances. A defense official said on the condition of anonymity that this was just the initial step in the phased disengagement process. It was during the de-escalation process on June 15 that the violent clash occurred in the Galwan Valley. The Chinese have given no figures on their dead and wounded. As reported, the two military commanders indicated that at first the de-escalation would take place at all the friction points: Galwan, Pangong, Hot Springs, and then depth areas such as Dapsang Plains in the north, where China had amassed troops, would be looked into. On June 19, China's foreign ministry said the Galwan Valley was located on the Chinese side of the LAC in the western section of the Sino-Indian border, suggesting it was making new claims in the area. Second, COVID-19 tests cross 1 crore, ICMR. COVID-19 tests in India crossed the 1 crore mark on Monday with 1,0135,525 cumulative samples tested so far, the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, said on Monday. In the past 24 hours, about 3,46,459 samples were tested. The Council has now recommended that all laboratories/hospitals initiating testing through rapid antigen tests should ensure that symptomatic patients, who have tested negative in rapid testing, should be referred for real-time RT-PCR testing. Also, the Council has also written to all the states/UTs directing all private labs undertaking TrueNat/SPNAT-based testing for COVID-19 to apply for NABL accreditation to ensure quality testing. The Health Ministry added that it is now advocating widespread testing and has also informed the states that increased focus has to be on the test, trace, treat strategy. India has been able to cross the 1 crore test mark by the continuously expanding network of testing labs throughout the country. As on date, more than 1,105 labs across the country are offering COVID tests. There are 788 labs in the government sector and 317 private labs, noted a release issued by the ministry. The Health Ministry has also released guidelines to deal with mental health concerns during the pandemic. Mental health in the times of COVID-19 pandemic. Third, 1.4 lakh families reach MNREGA's annual work limit, at least 1.4 lakh poor rural households have already completed their quota of 100 days of work under the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MNREGA, in the first 3 months of the year, and will not be eligible for further benefits under the scheme for the rest of the year. Another 7 lakh households have completed 80 days and are on the verge of running out of work as well, according to the scheme's database. With COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown resulting in thousands of unemployed migrant workers returning to their villages and now dependent on MNREGA wages, activists are urging the government to increase the limit to at least 200 days per household. This is an unprecedented situation where many are clearly desperate for work and dependent on MNREGA wages. In many areas, monsoon is the hungry sea. Son. If you stop providing work at this time, it will be a huge crisis for these families, said Nikhil Day, a Rajasthan-based activist with the Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sangathan. The MNREGA scheme contains a provision for districts affected by drought or other natural disasters to request an expansion of the scheme to allow for 150 days of work per household. Given that COVID-19 was declared a national disaster, activists have demanded that this provision be implemented immediately. Overall, 23 lakh households have already completed 60 days of work. Fourth, Infosys brings back 20 amid U.S. visa concerned staff, kin flown from San Francisco. Infosys brought back 200 people including staff and their families on a chartered flight from San Francisco on Monday amid growing disquiet over prospects for U.S. visa renewals for workers in the technology sector. In possibly a first for an Indian IT company, Infosys opted to evacuate its employees from the U.S. rather than risk having their visa status landing them in legal trouble following the decision by President Donald Trump's administration to bar the issue of fresh H-1B and other related non-immigrant visas till November. Visa expiration. Some of the Infosys employees were stranded in the U.S. because of their visa expiration, Sanjeev Bodhan, AVP at Infosys, said in a LinkedIn post. All international flights were suspended because of the pandemic. Infosys came to their rescue. The company booked the first ever chartered flight exclusively for 200+ employees and families from US to India, bringing an end to weeks of dilemma related to the uncertain situation, he wrote. International. China rebukes Britain over gross interference in Hong Kong. UK has offered path to citizenship to 3 million residents of the city. China's ambassador to London accused Britain on Monday of gross interference and making irresponsible remarks over Beijing's imposition of new security legislation in Hong Kong that he said could damage future Chinese investment. Britain has described the security law as a clear and serious violation of the 1984 joint declaration under which it handed back its colony to China 13 years later and said that London would offer around 3 million residents a path to British citizenship. The UK government keeps making irresponsible remarks on Hong Kong affairs, Ambassador Lu Xiaoming told reporters in the strongest rebuke Beijing has issued to London since Britain criticised the security law. On the British offer to give British national, overseas, BNO, passport holders in Hong Kong a path to British citizenship, he said, this move constitutes gross interference in China's internal affairs and openly tramples on the basic norms governing international relations. He said China would decide on its response after seeing how Britain proceeded with its passport offer. Although Prime Minister Boris Johnson describes himself as a Sinophile, he has also spoken of the need to stick up for our friends in Hong Kong, straining relations with Beijing. The Huawei question. He has also toughened his language on a provisional decision to allow China's Huawei to be involved in the development of Britain's 5G infrastructure, saying he would protect critical infrastructure from hostile state vendors. Mr. Johnson has faced intense pressure from the United States and some British lawmakers to ban the telecommunications equipment maker on security grounds, and Britain's media minister said on Monday the Huawei decision was not set in stone. Mr. Liu said that, although China wanted friendly relations with Britain, there might be many consequences if Britain treated Beijing as an enemy or with suspicion. We want to be your friend. We want to be your partner. But if you want to make China a hostile country, you will have to bear the consequences, he said. He said a U-turn on its Huawei decision would damage Britain's image as an open, business-friendly environment, and it meant London was having to bounce to the tune of the other countries. The China business community are all watching how you handle Huawei. If you get rid of Huawei, it sends out a very bad message to other Chinese businesses, Mr. Liu said. Meanwhile, Hong Kong released additional details of the new security law on Monday. The details of the new legislation stated that authorities will have the power to enter and search places for evidence. They can also restrict people under investigation from leaving Hong Kong. It may also allow for confiscation of the proceeds related to any offense endangering national security. It will require foreign and Taiwan political organizations and agents to provide information on activities concerning Hong Kong. Beijing also said on Monday that it reserved the right to take more action after Canada suspended its extradition treaty with Hong Kong. 2. Legendary Italian composer Ennio Morricone passes away. Reuters. Rome legend, Ennio Morricone achieved global fame for his tunes in the Dollars trilogy starring Clint Eastwood. *AP His haunting scores for the famous Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns helped define a cinematic era.